call the meeting to order, CIC meeting to order. We have three lovely presentations tonight. They're rather long. How do we feel about letting the two public comments go first? We feel okay with that?
Yep.
Good? Okay? Yep. All in favor?
Should I give the roll?
Oh, yeah, we'll have roll.
We all see each other.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Monday, October 7th, Elyville. Carl is absent, but will be coming along. Dee Dee, you're on Zoom.
Here.
Kanema, Linda to my left, myself, Caulfield, Dan is on Zoom.
I'm here, Dan.
Okay, Gaffney Lane, Betty.
I'm here.
Hillendale, Sarah.
I think Shelley is also on Zoom from
is she?
Gaffney Lane. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shelley, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hillendale, Sarah.
Yes.
Josh. Here. McLoughlin, Denise.
I'm here.
Tim. Here. Park Place, Steve. Here. And Bob. Here. Rivercrest, we have Emily, perhaps not.
She's no longer the rep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rivercrest is inactive.
Okay. South End, I believe is inactive. Tower Vista is inactive, and Two Rivers is inactive.
Rivers is active, they just don't have representation.
Have representation.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have Adam, Hannah, and Mike Mitchell in the rear. Okay, back to you.
Okay, so we have a consensus that we will allow the public comments first? Okay, so I have Crichton Bergstrom? Sorry? Caitlin, okay. Okay, is that Heidi?
No, this is Sarah Crane.
Sarah, okay. Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for inviting us. I don't know if this mic is on, it sounds like it is. We're from the Oregon City School District. My name is Caitlin Bergstrom. I'm the communications coordinator.
My name is Sarah Crane. I'm the assistant superintendent.
And we're here to talk to you today about our proposed bond that we have on the November ballot. The main goal of this bond is to update and repair aging elementary schools, many of which were were built in the 1960s. The average age is about 62 years old. So just a few top pointers, the 6 things that you should know about our bond, is that it will be on the November ballot. If passed, our district will receive a $6 million matching grant from the state. It's called an AWESOME grant, which is OSCIM, not awesome, but it is awesome. If passed, 100% of our school bonds will be spent here locally. And then three more specific points is that it will fund new air conditioning systems, update our classrooms, increase accessibility at all elementary schools as well. It will repair and update our aging and inefficient building systems. So like I said, many of our building systems were built decades ago, and our times have changed and our learning needs have changed. And so we're looking at just updating those to meet today's needs. We're also looking to expand student opportunities with, again, flexible learning spaces, and additional career and technical education spaces at the Oregon City High School, as well as some of our other campuses. And then another thing that we're looking to do is update our fields and grounds at the high school. Sarah, do you have anything else you would like to add?
You did a great job. I don't want to go over our 3 minutes.
Are there any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question. Elementary schools, so we have 2 elementary schools that are not in our area, that are over in Oak Grove. Still don't understand that, but is some of this money earmarked for those schools?
Yes, so all of our elementary schools, so that would include Candy Lane, Beaver Creek Elementary, Redland Elementary, Gaffney Lane Elementary, Holcomb Elementary,
Jamie.
and John McLoughlin Elementary, out on South End.
Okay, thank you.
As a person new to the district, I don't understand it either, so thanks for saying that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have Heidi Blackwell.
Hello, thank you. I'm going to also share about the school bond. My name is Heidi Blackwell, as was introduced. I'm a member of the Oregon City School Board, the Library Board. I'm on the city's DEI committee. I regularly attend the Hillendale Tower Vista Neighborhood Association meetings, so just active in our community. I'm here to express support for this Oregon City School Bond. It'll be 3-616. It'll be on the back of the second page, so the end of the ballot. It really is essential for funding. I know that we had the information that was just shared, but we have rusty pipes, right, in our buildings. We have leaky ceilings. We have, no HVAC at this point. No, the kids are wearing their jackets during the winter, and they're hot during the summertime. So really, this is an investment into our children. Safety is part of it. The main entrance looked very nice in our elementary schools. A part of our last bond, they were updated, but once you get past that, we need fences, we need cameras, we need locking doors. Our classrooms don't have doors. They were made in these pods. So our pods have curtains or accordion walls in between them, so you'll have 4 or 5 classrooms in a big open space. And that's not a good learning environment for anybody. We'd like to create safe, functional learning environments, some smaller classrooms, so kids can get a little bit of help with reading or take a break. Those are things that would happen with this bond. While our schools are accessible, not every person can access every space in our schools. Our bathrooms, our playgrounds are not accessible for all of the students or all the adults that spend time in our classrooms. And that's something we acknowledge and we need to work on. Along with the elementary schools, they talked about some of those career and tech spaces. We're talking about culinary, construction, health sciences, really those in-demand careers that we want to get our kids ready for. We don't have spaces right now in our high schools that can function to help provide those opportunities for our students. So this would be a chance to do that. Not only will this bond help our students, we will keep the money in our community. We will work to have contractors that are part of our community, and we'll keep our money here 100% in Oregon City. This is how you fund construction in schools. There's not another way for us to get money so passing a bond is how we can make these improvements that we really, really acknowledge need to get done in our schools. As they mentioned, we have a matching grant, and we just want to be competitive with our neighboring districts that do have better facilities. That's something that we heard a lot when we were out polling and doing small groups and just really listening to people in our community about what we could do in our schools. So schools are really the heart of our community. We just want to be proud of our schools. We want them to be welcoming spaces. We need to invest in our students.
Thank you. Any
I can
questions?
speak to a little bit about why we have those 2 schools up there too, because I've asked.
Well, I've heard before.
Yeah,
I'm just curious. I was curious as if we were going to spend money out of Oregon City into other cities.
Yeah, they're still part of our district.
Our district, correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard 100% is going into stay in Oregon City. Well, or in the Oregon City district.
School district.
Right, so that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And it seems like busing kids to Oak Grove from Oregon City doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's our dual language program. So students and families choose to have their students go up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, my wife worked there, so
Yeah.
I'm familiar
Great.
with the process. It seems to me at some point, we probably ought to try and find a building here in town that would make a lot more sense financially and quite frankly, for the environment. Driving all those buses, I would see them all over. So that's my concern.
Bob?
How long are the bonds for, and what will it cost per thousand?
Yeah, I mean, there will be a cost. So we have 5 years to make plans to spend the bond, and then it will be for working with the assessor's office. The average house is $250,000 assessed value in Oregon City, which would be about $1 a day, an increase in taxes.
Just over 300 a month, a year.
Thank you.
A month.
Sure. And I know, I hate to ask. I really do. I hate to sit here and ask, but nobody's asked for the last 60, 80 years. That's how old our elementary school is. So it's not going to get cheaper. They're not going to be better. This is the solution that we have.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
So our first presenter is the LoveOne Community Engagement Presenter. Is that Brandi Johnson?
Are there any other public comments? Oh, I think there's one other.
One other. Oh, I don't have a card. Well, come on up.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Jean Jones, and I'm with the Oregon City Home Orchard Education Center. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that organization. I'm seeing some heads nod.
Will you move just a little bit closer to the mic? Thank you.
The Home Orchard Education Center is a nonprofit orchard that's located on the Clackamas Community College campus here in Oregon City. And it's a nonprofit that's really focused on providing education around being able to grow plants and have an edible landscape. It's also focused on growing fruit at the orchard that can then be distributed within the community, and also on engaging the community by having volunteers come to the orchard and spend time together. I'm a volunteer at the orchard. I'm also a board member. And so I'm here today just to make sure that people are aware of the orchard, because we are a fairly new nonprofit. There was a previous nonprofit that disbanded in 2020, and we started at that time. So we're 4 years in, and we really want to get more people to engage with the orchard, to come out and see us, visit, take part in the workshops, and also participate in some of our activities like our fundraiser. So I'm here today specifically because we do have a fundraiser that's coming up on October 26th. It will be taking place at the community college, and our goal is to raise a significant portion of the funds that we need to continue our operations into 2025. So with that, that's really what I wanted to share with you today. I do have some flyers if anybody is interested in them, and I would be happy to take questions.
Denise?
What is your website?
Our website is homeorchardeducationcenter.org. It is a long one. On the flyers that I have, I do have QR codes, and that will also take you to the website. So if anybody would like a flyer, I can leave those with Hannah for you to take.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Please get the word out. We would
Okay.
love to have people come.
Thank you. Are there any other presenters before we start? Okay. Well, Brandi, you're up.
I brought a friend.
Oh.
I'm Glenn, I'm the Deputy Director of LoveOne.
Okay, Glenn,
Hello.
nice to meet you.
I'm Brandi Johnson, Executive Director of LoveOne, also of the Father's Heart, but tonight's presentation is just about LoveOne. A resident of Oregon City for the last 24 years and grew up in Clackamas County, McLoughlin to be specific. So well acquainted with the various communities that LoveOne serves. A little bit about what we do, which is grown quite a bit. We started with laundry and hygiene items, partnering with local laundromats where we do, we used to do 5 events a month in Milwaukee and Oregon City and unincorporated Gladstone kind of Milwaukee area. We're now up to 14 a month because we've added weekly events in Molalla and Sandy, and we will be in Estacada once that laundromat is refurbished. And so in Oregon City, we have 2 events a month, the second Thursday and the 4th Wednesday. We partner with Brack's Laundry, the owners there, to provide free laundry, hygiene, showers, a meal, and then we partner with local clubs and faith communities and just our wonderful community members who come out and want to volunteer with us. We also do a rural food pantry out in Redland, at the Redland Grange every Thursday. That serves over 400 people every week, and that's anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 pounds of food that's gone in 15 minutes. Those are primarily housed and unstably doubled up housed families from that specific area. We do have quite a few staff from DHS and other county services who come out and shop for families that they're working with. And that's as much food as we can possibly get. That's what we distribute every week. And it's amazing how quickly that goes. And people show up hour, 2, 3 hours ahead of time and wait. If you've ever driven out that way, I'm sorry for the traffic, the snarl that happens. But we have amazing community members who come out and dedicate their time to help folks shop for food and get food to get through the week. A lot of grandparents with grandkids and their adult kids living at home with them. So that kind of helps fill the gap. LoveOne also does outreach. And so we spend a lot of time, we have a dedicated team who respond to calls from not only community members, but a lot of our law enforcement partners, the Sheriff's Office, Oregon City PD, and others, because they end up getting called out to a lot of folks who aren't in need of law enforcement services or even emergency services. What they are better paired with is some of the services that we can provide, whether that's just on-site support, connecting them to other resources, making a plan, that sort of thing. So we do a lot of that work, and we follow through with folks. We have a housing team. We do housing navigation and retention. Did I forget any programs?
We have a trash extravaganza program, and it's not just a trash program because nobody wants to volunteer at a trash program, so we call them extravaganzas, and people are interested. We really meet with the community. We aren't involved in sweeps, but we have a meal. We are able to pay people that are living in that area and people with lived experience with gift cards at the end of the event. And we also have teams out there to connect them to Clackamas County CHA, see where they want to be in the system and see where we can get them connected for services. So.
Thank you. This is partly especially why I need Glenn to come, because I always forget one program. So it is very helpful. Last year, we removed 660 yards of trash. That is so much trash. And like Glenn mentioned, we do that in partnership with folks where they're camped. And so they're helping identify what needs to get removed, and they want trash service as much as we want that for them. So it's very productive. And then we work with folks and follow up and help them, like you mentioned, get connected to services. And then the end goal is, of course, into housing or sober living or whatever next steps they are ready for. And the pain point is what resources do we have available, right? So we don't have safe overnight parking. We don't have shelter. And we had, for a short period, unfettered access to the ARLA vouchers through the Supportive Housing Services measure for within the UGB, and those are all filled now. So our next mission is to figure out what next steps are for more housing. Yes.
How large is the area that LoveOne covers?
All of Clackamas County.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
Keeps us busy.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a brief story, and then we're happy to take questions. One of the tasks that we had right after the COVID mandates were lifted was Metro went out and cleared out Newell Creek Canyon. I think most people are pretty familiar with that. And there were a lot of folks camped out there, a lot. There were upwards of 40 to 50 people. And Metro went out, started making contacts, said, hey, we're going to come back in. We're going to be clearing camps. You need to make plans and pack up and be on your way. And this one individual had built this incredible cabin. He had a chicken coop built into the hillside with a fallen log as the front and plexiglass on front so the chickens could see out. And he had built kind of a little latrine area, and they were like, he is constructing buildings on the property and he cannot live here. And when they made contact with him, he said, bring in the helicopters and the guns because I'm not going anywhere. And they were like, well, this could be a problem. And so they called up Glenn and I, and we're like, hey, can you guys, we're wondering if you're available to come meet somebody We need to help convince him that he needs to move on. And we were like, sure. So we went out there, and the first time we met, it was kind of between some bushes, and we just were like, hey, you know, this is who we are. Can we come back and talk to you another time? And he was like, yeah, okay, that'd be all right. And so we went out another 20 or more times, just having little bits of conversation with him, and that expanded quite a bit. And one day he goes, okay, well, I know they want me to move. What's it look like if I were to get housing? And we were like, oh, did this just happen? Okay, yes, let's talk about that. And he goes, wait. He goes, I'm not going to talk about housing for me unless you house my chickens first. And we were like, first? We've never housed chickens before, but we're like, if that's the only thing standing in the way right now, like, we will make it happen. And one of our staff, she has a farm just down the street, just past the high school. And she was like, sure, I will take these chickens. And they all had names like Big Mama and something else. And she was so big she couldn't hop over the log to get out. Like, she had to be lifted. And so it was one of the rainiest days since we'd been out there. But there were like 5 of us chasing chickens around the hillside, trying to put them in cat carriers. Yeah, it like, we have pictures, we were covered in mud. But we got the chickens, and we got them rehomed, and they live on a farm with goats and a llama and like other happy animals, and they're living their best lives. And then we got to meet with Daniel. And we said, okay, we're going to come back out to do your housing orientation. So the Housing Authority made it possible to do a virtual orientation. And so we had, I think it was your phone, right? It was on your phone, and he's in his class learning about, housing. But we showed up, and he built another structure to host us.
Yeah.
We were like, Daniel, the deal is you couldn't build any more, but he built this beautiful, covered.
Lean-to.
Yeah. With arched, so he's a woodworker.
Master carpenter.
Yes, and it was this arched covered area, and it overlooked the hillside. Newell Creek Canyon on the right-hand side, headed north, is beautiful, by the way. I mean, all of it is, but that was exceptionally beautiful that morning. And he had coffee ready for us, and like little Debbie snacks, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, long story short, Daniel's housed. He's been housed for almost 2 years. He has a couple of cats, no chickens, and he is doing really, really well. And that's some of the work that we do.
Yeah, and I think the important part of that story of him being a master carpenter is he's did a lot of work here in Oregon City. He built the decks, all of the decks back in the day up there by, what is that place? Stillhouse. He built all of those decks. He's did a lot of work here. He's from here. And, things got tough. Work ran out, and all he knew was, I can build a cabin because I know how to work with wood. And it was the most amazing cabin you'd ever seen. It lived on a fulcrum where it was balanced, and I mean, it was just, and I think tearing that down was the hardest part for him, but we let him go through the process. He wanted to donate all of the wood. So I think it was a really great time to help him heal and really rely on the system again to get back on his feet. So.
Yeah, and he reconnected to one of his kids.
He did.
Yeah, yep. So we kind of do all the things and meet people where they're at, build the relationships, help figure out what next steps are, and also understand the impact on our community of folks living unhoused and experiencing houselessness and the shortage of resources, but always looking toward what the next options are.
Any questions? Bob?
Where do you get your funding?
Primarily from Clackamas County through the Supportive Housing Services dollars and a portion from the governor's emergency orders.
Yeah. That story, I guess, is a perfect example of going the extra mile, for sure.
Just hit us up if you have chickens you need help.
And, I think about the chickens, he wanted the eggs.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because the eggs tell the story of how his chickens are doing.
Yep.
So it was pretty cool to be able to take him the eggs and him to know that his chickens are healthy and doing well. So.
Yeah, Mel still takes him the eggs. Mm-hmm.
How many people are in your organization?
So between LoveOne and Father's Heart, we're at about 62 employees. It's split almost half and half.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Which is not, it sounds like a lot, and it's not enough. to cover all of the areas and show up as much, but yeah. Better than just being all volunteer like we were, which was amazing, but also it's hard to dedicate that much time.
Are they employees or volunteers?
Employees. Mhm. Yeah. And then we have a whole wealth of volunteers who show up, yes.
Wow.
Betty?
And what is it gonna look like with the care center?
The caring place?
Is in place?
What do you mean by what will it look like?
Because you and Father's Heart will be moving into that location, correct?
Yep.
And so, like, is it gonna be, you're gonna have your own separate space, or are you gonna combine with the other organizations that will be there?
Got it, thank you. So LoveOne and Father's Heart are the anchor tenants. Father's Heart will have the day center services that we already do just in that cramped building on Washington. And then for LoveOne, we already go into the day center and provide services and support folks. It's kind of an in and out sort of thing for LoveOne. Because our outreach team go to all of our events, they go out into the community, they do the same work at the day center. So it'll be similar to that, but our staff will have some dedicated workspace. Because right now, the Father's Heart staff and the LoveOne staff don't have private dedicated space to like get notes done or meet with a participant. It's very in and out all of the time. We'll also have a place, like a central location to park our shower cart and our van and some of our other, like our food trailer, things like that. We're very excited about that. It's gonna save a ton of time and the storage. And then the other tenant so far is a federally qualified health center. And so that will be open to the public, not just for participants of LoveOne and Father's Heart. So there will be like the community-facing, public-facing health center. And so, yeah, I think that, does that help?
When do you think that's gonna happen?
Not soon enough. It's projected to be like mid-2026. I'm not holding my breath, just crossing my fingers and toes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you then.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
And now we hear from McLoughlin Boulevard Enhancement Project update. Public Works Director Dayna Webb and Christina Robertson-Gardiner. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Bissinger, CIC. Christina Robertson-Gardiner. Oh my goodness, there we go. So we are here to provide an update of the McLoughlin Boulevard Enhancement Project and kind of talk about next steps. But before I start, can you raise your hand if you've received emails from me about updating? Okay. Some of you have seen this presentation before, so I'm gonna try to streamline it a little bit, but I think the goal is just to kind of provide you an update of where we are and kind of what happens now. So the McLoughlin Boulevard Enhancement really started as a document 20 years ago as a corridor plan looking at improving McLoughlin Boulevard from the Gladstone Bridge to the railroad tunnel. The city has finished phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 was kind of a area between 10th Street and the I-205 ramps, and phase 2 is kind of the I-205 ramps to the Gladstone Bridge. And so the most complicated section, which is the viaduct, was left for last. And so this grant really that we've been working on this last year is just trying to figure out what is the right approach to bring pedestrian and bikes along this segment of the corridor, knowing that the viaduct will not be rebuilt anytime soon and nothing can be hung off the viaduct. The 1940s structure really is on its own, and anything we provide is on its own. So the purpose and need, there's a big gap in the existing part of the viaduct. It's pretty disjointed, and this is definitely an area where we turn our back to the Willamette River. We've done some good job in previous phases of kind of reorienting our city. We kind of have a highway that runs between us and the river. And whatever is done, needs to be supporting of our tourism and economic development goals. This should be seen as an amenity just as much as a bicycle and pedestrian route. So this is the project area, as I had indicated, 10th Street to the railroad tunnel, or Tumwata Village, which is off to your far left on the map. You'll notice that Main Street is also in the project area. Kind of the no-build option was to turn bikes and pedestrians onto 10th Street and then Main Street if an alignment was not realized that could be supported by the community. And so our design team looked at kind of what would a Main Street approach look like as well. So we started last year with an open house. We had a virtual open house. How many of you remember taking part in the virtual open house? You look up at the top, we had lots of different options, one going all the way down to the river, different variations. We had a lot of great comments from folks about what really was important to them. And you can kind of see some of the main comments we saw. But with that, sorry.
Does it stop working?
It stopped
Try
working.
now.
Okay, there we go. So from this, we got lots of comments and we handed that off to the design team and they started doing that next step of investigations of all those alternatives. And what they found was none of the alternatives that were proposed in the December open house could move forward. And so then they looked and said, well, okay, if none of those can move forward, is there an option that could move forward? And they looked at kind of two scenarios. One they called the conventional viaduct and two signature spans, which is a little clunky, had a lot of foundation piers and kind of a large structure above the roadway, kind of between the arch bridge and the curve. So the conventional viaduct and two signature spans, while technically could work, was not a very viable option. What really the one option that was the most viable was the long span. And I will show you why really briefly with this slide. I really like this slide. It really explains the context of this section of McLoughlin Boulevard as it relates to the Willamette River. The different colors is what we call it's a bathymetric reading or bathymetry, which is like topo, but underwater. So if you look at if you've ever heard the term, bathymetry is like the underwater version of topo. And so you see the dark blue is the deepest part of the Willamette River. So we do know that right underneath the arch bridge is some of the deepest water in the Willamette River during the whole stretch. What we found was when you looked at potentially putting foundation piers, and that's what they call these bents. So bent 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are potential foundation pier locations. You could, between bent 5 and 6, where the 8th Street dock is, that's a reasonable span to potentially have a bridge section span. And then, threading through the arch bridge, but you'll see in kind of bent 10, 11, 12, 13, it just goes directly down to the bottom of the Willamette. There's no shoreline there. And so there was really no scenario that allowed a design to cover that gap, because you're not going to put 100-foot long pilings down into the Willamette. And so really what came out of that is what we call the long span. And I'll show you this. This is kind of a view from Westland looking over, and this is a conceptual drawing, but you'll see it pretty much has two large foundation supports with the deck kind of strung in tension between them. So instead of 20 foundation bents, you have two large ones and a couple secondary. That deck of the shared use path will then thread through the arches of the arch bridge. So it really is kind of between those pillars of the arch bridge. It'll kind of slip right through. One thing we learned when we talked to all the ODOT maintenance folks, got all those people on board, and one of the big thing they said is whatever you do, you have to design something that allows us to get our maintenance trucks, which have an arm that goes out around and underneath the viaduct so they can do their scheduled maintenance checks. So which required the pedestrian path to at least be separated 30 feet from the viaduct to allow those mechanical arms to get underneath. So that is one example of kind of all of the specific kind of engineering specs that were required from any design.
Should have just bought him a boat.
Yeah, well, ODOT maintenance gets to tell us what to do. It's their structure. So this is a pretty ambitious approach, but this is really the only approach that would work within the span, knowing we kind of have this bathymetry next to us. So I'm going to hand it over to Dayna Webb, our Public Works Director. Oh, sure.
So is that basically a suspension?
It is.
Bridge?
Yeah, it's basically strung between those two foundation arms. And that kind of allows.
Like a suspension bridge?
Like most of those tension bridges. I'm not a bridge engineer, but from what I've heard, you have those tension enough. This is a common, actually, tension bridge design. I think the unique piece is it's just parallel rather than perpendicular. You're used to seeing things perpendicular. This is just a parallel approach. So I'm going to pass it over to Dayna, and she can talk a little bit about kind of the advantages, some of the challenges. We also, as part of this project, are looking at our streetscape improvements. So right now, you'll notice there's no trees, no vegetation. There's odd, weird spaces of extra pavement. It's not a very pleasant place to walk. And so as part of this project, it's both to look at a conceptual approach for a future pedestrian connection, but also today, what street improvements can we do on this section of McLoughlin Boulevard?
All right, thanks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the long span. So you'll recall Christina mentioned we went through that process and ended up with no promising alternative. And as part of that work, we looked at structural and constructability. We also looked at geotechnical and archaeological, and then also cultural and historical. So as we looked at each of those, we identified this long span as the preferred option. So this had advantages such as those minimized foundations and excavation locations. So instead of needing those 20-some vents, we just need those two main foundations. That limits our excavation in a culturally significant area, which is something that ODOT has identified. So this allows us a light and shallow superstructure, so that walking surface, they can work to design that to make that the thickness appropriate for this type of structure, and then really work to kind of thread that needle through the arch bridge. So the clearance below the deck still lets Clackamas County's West access their sewer pipe that hangs on that seawall. So on that kind of southern section, their sewer pipe hangs on that outer seawall, and then in the viaduct section, it goes under those viaducts. And then really allows the project to be mostly in a dry or not in a in-water work. So really limits that impact to the river with the construction. And then again, I think one of the things that the team really liked is that it doesn't try to mimic the arch bridge, but really looks to kind of showcase it. So as it comes up on either side, it works to showcase the existing arch bridge instead of compete with it. Again, some of the challenges, it is going to be a difficult bridge to design, kind of piecing it through the arch bridge. And then those two larger foundations are impactful. So we would continue to refine that design. We also looked at placemaking and riverfront activation opportunities. And I'll show some examples a little bit later. But in this lower example, this is sort of an alleyway, and we've got a few of these adjacent to the arch bridge that we could look to activate for placemaking. They could be an extension of events on Main Street down along those alleyways. Some of you might remember those alleyways used to be open to vehicles, and we've closed that off from a safety perspective. So this would maybe take it to that next level and activate it for pedestrian uses. We've also activated a couple of the alleys off Main Street as well. Some of you might recall about 10 years ago, I think we took those and kind of paved them, and I think some of the restaurants use them for outdoor seating. Other placemaking opportunities would be to bring in more green space. That corridor right now is very much a paved concrete and asphalt corridor. So anything we can do to kind of bring in some amenities and some components that are less concrete would be helpful. Other ideas for placemaking, just, on the bottom, you'll see our current phase of McLoughlin where we were able to add that center median with some trees. We've got that Willamette Terrace walkway there along the river. And it really feels different in this section of McLoughlin than it does in that current section from 10th to the tunnel, where it just feels kind of paved and nothing exciting. We could look at opportunities for landmarks, wayfinding, materials, art, and interpretive signage down the corridor. So quickly walk you through some of these options. So this is at the bottom of the screen is coming out of the tunnel. And so there's the roadway section and there's also a pedestrian tunnel. This would pull that pedestrian crossing of Railroad Avenue a little bit further out of the tunnel so that the vehicles and pedestrians have an opportunity to see each other before they're kind of right around the corner and meeting each other. This also looks at Main Street and 9090 and identifying opportunities for curb extensions to shorten those pedestrian crossings where we can.
On the curb extensions, I know those have been a problem a lot of times for especially trucks with trailers and turning and hitting those curbs or trying to avoid them and going into other traffic. Will you guys be doing any analysis of that usage prior to planning that?
Yeah, we can look at the kinds of vehicles that use the intersection and we can look at that. I know that TriMet, I think, has maybe one bus that comes down Main Street. And so, again, we've shown them in all locations, but we would continue to refine kind of where they make sense.
Yeah, because if they take a right turn off of Main there onto 99 going north, that's probably gonna be a problem, that curb for them.
Yeah, this is also a freight route, and we've been hearing some strong comments from ODOT about, what the minimum distance are. And one thing I was trying to tell Dayna is I really see this plan as like, okay, what are the things that can't change and where are all the little spaces we can add green or where are the little spaces we can slightly enlarge a sidewalk? And maybe it's not the full curb extension, maybe it's a little bit less, but it's more than we have now. So I think the idea is you adopt your dreams and then you work with reality when we get to the design phase.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not on your plan that you see, but the big trucks will take up both lanes because it's a very narrow area that's going underneath the bridge. So, okay.
Yeah, that is assumed. The ODOT knows that, that when they look at kind of design operations, that larger vehicles take both lanes when they go underneath the railroad bridge.
All right, on the next section, this is sort of the elbow. So right there at the top of the screen would be the river. You can see the kind of the general alignment of that separated pathway. So this looks at options to address that widened right-of-way in front of the transmission shop. And so here we kind of show the two extremes, the really kind of leave it more or less how it's used today with the addition of a sidewalk for pedestrians, and then really an option where it's kind of taking back that area and providing open space. And so we have worked with that property owner to kind of understand their needs. And so again, the plan's got kind of both extremes. And I think where we will land at some point is, you know, working through those specifics of how can we, you know, provide some open space and some, you know, kind of less asphalt and concrete in the corridor, but also working to maintain that parking need.
Yeah, working with Lear Morton's Transmission, they have 2 driveways, 2 access bays, and then access to their parking lot. And so the refined version, you'll see, so this, what you see here is kind of our draft plan, but the final plan will kind of indicate all of the existing businesses' access points, and we'll make sure that the adopted plan indicates that any active business there should have all of their accesses retained in any design.
And again, in this,
You beat me to my question.
Yeah, we had a great.
Because the owner was quite adamant.
Yeah, we had a
One of the
great.
meetings recently where
Yeah.
It was.
I want to say maybe that following week, we had a great, probably 1 hour site visit with them. We got to look through all their site circulation, and you will see their revised plan when it goes to the planning commission indicates all of their existing access bays. And that's the intention is, if they're an existing business, then they get to maintain their access bays when any redesign of that inside corner is performed.
Could you go back to the last slide? It doesn't look like the highway is lined up properly.
It does.
I mean, there's quite a difference there.
Yes, there is some, what you kind of see in the hashed out marks.
Well, no, if you look at Highway 99, from the lower part to the upper part where it crosses Main Street, there's quite a difference between the lanes where they line up. I don't know if it's just the way the artist did the drawing or whether it's an actual plan.
I think it's pretty much on center. I think the key
Well,
thing.
look where the center yellow line is from where it comes out of the tunnel and where it comes around the curve. I mean, there's a heck of a difference there.
Christina.
Yeah.
Steve.
Oh, I keep touching, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Steve's is like, don't
I'll be here to remind you.
And I'm like touching it, sorry. Steve's like, don't touch it, makes sounds. I'll defer to Dayna. I don't believe any dramatic changes happening. I do know on the right side, there'll be no sidewalk on the Tumwata Village side down to the railroad bridge because there is no access for pedestrians there. But I'll defer to Ada.
yeah, and I'll take another look. What you're seeing is actually an aerial photo. So I do think there's maybe as you go through that intersection, there's a little bit of an angle, but it may be just accentuated with the way they drew their yellow line.
I was gonna say that this drawing has the yellow line moved over from where it actually exists at. So if you actually look through, you can kind of see through right there where the southbound center line is of the 2 lanes. That's actually where the yellow line is coming through currently. Graphics. Yeah.
And the hash mark, we're coordinating with the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde. They received a federal grant for street improvements on their portion as well as their version of Water Street and 4th. And so we're kind of doing a little concurrent project and hopefully we'll be able to integrate their final plans into so it's a full corridor plan. So hopefully the hash marks will turn into their conceptual design as soon as we can get it all coordinated.
All right, and then one more item on this one, we really look at 6th Street where it connects back to McLoughlin and really narrow that up and shorten that pedestrian crossing with those kind of bulb out ADA ramps. All right, and then the next one here, you can see, so this is, you see the words historic arch bridge. The artists have removed the actual structure so we can see the lanes and the pedestrian crossing underneath. So on the top image, you can see the existing pedestrian crossing is located directly under the structure. And in that scenario, we retain that alignment. On the lower option, we move that alignment to line up with the alleyway there that I mentioned earlier. So kind of if you're on Main Street by Mi Familia, you could take that alleyway down and have a direct connection. In that scenario, that would line you straight up with with the municipal elevator and a direct path all the way with a connection onto that pedestrian structure as it kind of needles through the arch bridge. So
would that just be a pedestrian, like a pedestrian crosswalk, or would that be a stoplight?
It would be so there's an existing pedestrian crossing light right now. It would be upgraded to the current version of a pedestrian activated light. So more than just the, there'll be blinkers and.
Yeah,
like
it technically functions like a traffic signal, but it's just pedestrian activated. And so it would be upgrading the signal heads to, new signal heads with the reflective back plates and just some safety features. So there's kind of two options there. Also looking under the arch bridge on that top image, you can see we have 6 existing parking spaces that are permit parking spaces through the city's downtown permit parking program. We've been communicating with code enforcement who manages those permit parking as well, but there's an option either to retain those or an option to activate that space under the bridge, either as open space or more space to be used during downtown events. So kind of some options there. Then along the river, you'll see today we have that kind of extremely wide parking and drive aisle section. So the top option retains the parking. It just pulls it adjacent to the lane, similar to what we see down by 12th and 14th, where we have that on-street parking. So it would retain the on-street parking in that scenario, or we have an option where we remove the parking and just create more open space to kind of activate the area for pedestrians and then kind of trying to create an inviting atmosphere along that section. So it could be either of those. We could also look to just keep the parking with the adjacent kind of drive aisle. There was some comments and concerns about the speed of traffic and getting into a parking spot. We do have that currently along both sides of McLoughlin, up by about 12th to 14th has on-street parking adjacent to the travel lane. So there's options, and we don't need to make a decision on that option until we're moving forward with design. And then both of these scenarios kind of narrow down that 8th Street connection, just really looking to provide shorter pedestrian crossings from a safety perspective. And then not shown here so much, but we have heard concerns about pedestrians crossing McLoughlin Boulevard. And so one of the options in the plan is what we kind of refer to as a pedestrian undercrossing that would look to line up near this kind of historic 8th Street dock. So where that viaduct is open, we could have a connection from that pedestrian structure that would ramp down and go under 9090 and provide an option to cross 9090 without having to actually physically cross it. So that doesn't show in this one, but it's right there near 8th Street. So if you've been behind the courthouse, there is access down to the river back there. And so this is a preview of our webpage, and I might let Christina kind of walk through some of her updates and how to sign up for her mailing list.
Sure. So where are we now? This is a conceptual plan that would be added to the transportation system plan. And you need to adopt plans in order to move forward, either forward for further grants or forward for further study. So that is the goal with this plan, is to adopt it into our transportation system plan. There's a planning commission hearing on October 28th that starts that process. The planning commission will make a recommendation to the city commission, and they will review it. And if adopted, it'll be added to the transportation system plan. In a perfect world, there would be grants opening after that, but we don't live in a perfect world. The next grant programs was open as of August and has a deadline of November 15th. We're looking, and those are a 3-year grant cycle, so we couldn't apply again for another 3 years if we missed out on this one. This is the same grant that paid for this study to look at the conceptual approach and the streetscape. One thing Dayna is doing is separating into 2 grant requests. One just for streetscape design and construction for the non-viaduct portion, so kind of from the tunnel moving north around the bend. Not sure exactly, but maybe we can get something done all the way to 10th, or kind of the viaduct portion, maybe just cleaning up sidewalks. And then the second grant is looking at further design refinement of the long span. So we're kind of doing it in 2 ways. The construction of the request for construction of the streetscape, if that was approved, we would be moving forward with these hard design choices. And so it would be to go through that another public process to kind of take what was adopted, which is here's a lot of options, determine what the actual design would be, and then move forward with construction drawings. So if we receive the next grant for the street improvements, we would come back with another public outreach process to finalize that design. One thing, we are kind of working on some letters of support. There's 2 opportunities to do support letters, one before November 15th and one in January when all the grants are open for public comment. So we will be able to provide both of those options to you or individually or as a group. We are reaching out to DOCA. I'm meeting with PRAC and NRC on Wednesday to talk about habitat and natural resources to make sure we've adopted what we need in our plan to address habitat goals for the shoreline.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
One is, and it's probably too early to say, but the material of the walkway. It seems with all the concrete and all the asphalt, it seems that it would be nice and maybe logical to maintain what we currently have. There is concrete, but we've also got the wood decks, and it would be nice to integrate natural materials into that walkway. I don't know how that'll hold up. I mean, I'm sure there are materials that we can do that with.
I think our the goal is not to get to that level of detail. The design team has identified a bunch of options, and so as we get into the design refinement, they can kind of give us, if we are able to move to that next step, what that would be.
Just an opinion. Second question is the under pedestrian access. The concern I would have there is a high water event, and we would lose that potentially, and that concerns me. And then the third thing was the 15 and 20 spaces removed. With the challenge we have now with parking downtown, I think that's a tough one to swallow. We're looking for more parking, not losing 15 or 20 spaces.
Oh, I agree. The city commission kind of felt the same way. I think when you adopt a plan, it's 2024, and you're adopting for the next couple decades, of moving this forward. So we don't, what today's issues are in 2024 may not be what 2035s are. And so I think kind of the goal is to have as many options in the adopted plan. And then when we get to design refinement, the year it happens can be like a gut check on, okay, what do we really want?
Right, yep. Thank you.
Can I say something? I can't raise my hand.
Oh, yeah, we can't see you either, Dee Dee. Go ahead.
Okay, Christina, I've been following this from your first open house. I'm very, very excited about this whole thing, and I've been a supporter. However, there is, and I just have never heard about the removal of the trees that along the river and a mitigation for that. I just assumed they would be staying because this was something that was looked at over 10 years ago with the NRC back when Bessie Terrell was around. But anyway, we have 2,000 feet and there's over 100 trees. That's a forest that cannot be mitigated for riparians. You just can't put up that tall of trees. You can't just put up habitat for the riparian needs and the nesting and even the shade and the detritus matter that goes down into the river for the fish, the nutrients. We've got to find a way to conserve and save those trees along in there. It just cannot be something that can be mitigated because you can't grow it back. And in the meantime, the riparians lose their habitat and they go away or die. So I just have to say that I hope that NRC and planning and you would consider this as a very, very important environmental concern that was brought up. And you might want to go back and revisit what they said over a decade ago about why they had to save them. The Marine Board got involved because of the habitat disrupting. Now, in the photographs, you can't see the trees because it's a winter photograph. The only ones you can see are the ones completely covered with ivy. But that's a real life forest, over 100 trees in there. So that is my concern, and it's one I will continue to say right down till we get to the very last designs on this, because it's important.
So I agree with you, Dee Dee. I think if you want to come to the NRC meeting on Wednesday, it'll also be streamed. I don't know if live streamed, it'll definitely be available on the YouTube channel. We've asked the bridge design consultant team to bring their natural resource consultant to help us kind of walk through what will be the future environmental review process. And most importantly, I kind of see this plan as our cookbook for future, next steps. So we're going to be asking the NRC, are there a couple important sentences we can add into this plan that looks at our aspiration and vision on every tree is important, and so we should be very specific about how we design to look at retention of trees whenever possible. So that's one of the things we're asking the NRC to provide some comment on to make sure that's embedded in our adopted plan.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm actually planning to be there Wednesday.
Good.
So I'll stand in support. Thank you so much.
Who is the design team, and were they selected by an RFP or were they assigned by ODOT, or how did that come about?
So the consultant selection process, because these are federal funds, went through a federal procurement process managed by ODOT. So there was a full RFP. City staff sat in on the team review. I can't remember if there were 2 or 3 proposals.
So Kittleson Associates is the design team. They're kind of one of the premier transportation and engineering firms in our region. We use them. They've been here as both applicants and as consultants for the city. And HDR is the bridge designers, and they're one of the industry specialists for bridge design as well.
Any other questions? Or are we still going?
All I would say is, if you haven't gone onto our website, do sign up. If you haven't, read my emails. But Dayna, if it's something that the CIC wants to formally support, Dayna will be back here next month with her first Public Works Director
report, so that's exciting. If that's something you want to do formally, if you want to do that on your own individually, we'll kind of let you know how the November and the January time periods for that.
Yes, please do bring back when you're ready for your letter of support. And I'd like to thank you for taking care of the transmission gentleman. He was very upset. I mean, I just hate to see anyone who's had a business forever and ever.
Yeah, and that was never the
Yeah, I
plan.
know it
And
wasn't.
more importantly, you meet with people and you really find out what they need, and then you make sure it's in the adopted version. So I see this as the cookbook, so put all the right ingredients in.
Any other questions then? Thank you.
And sorry about touching.
You just had to do it on your way out.
Have an update of the Oregon City Erosion Control Code by Josh Wheeler. Welcome.
Good evening, Josh Wheeler, Public Works Department, Assistant City Engineer. I'm here tonight to provide you a brief summary of some code changes that we need to make. The changes are made to Oregon City Municipal Code 17.47, and which is currently called the Oregon City Erosion Control Code. A couple years ago, we had a renewed permit for our NPDES permit, and that is our stormwater permit that tells us what we're supposed to do with respect to water quality within the city. It is a state permit that is administered because of a federal program that requires that. Through that NPDES permit, we have a permit called the MS4, and they all have names. If you're interested in what they actually stand for, feel free to ask. But that tells us that we're going to not only take care of stormwater ourselves with our own projects and with our own maintenance and things of that sort, but also that we have oversight of private development and ensuring that they are following the stormwater standards of the state and ultimately the federal EPA acts. They came through and they made an update to the permit. Those permits, they update about every 5 to 10 years. They were about 3 years overdue in updating it, but they ultimately did it with some new language. And because of that new language, it requires us to update our code. And that new language, in general, stated that they no longer want to call these codes erosion and sediment control codes. They now want to call them construction site runoff controls. Personally, and professionally, it's semantics. I don't really see a difference. Our operation day to day is going to be no different. If any developer or capital project disturbs 1,000 square feet or more, which is our standard, you have to get erosion control permit. Whether it's called erosion control permit or construction site runoff permit or use an erosion control code or a construction site runoff code, it's the same exact thing as we've always been doing. It's just that this has a stronger feel or a stronger stance that it's construction related, not just basic erosion related that could happen because landslides and maybe not a well-vegetated slope because it doesn't grow very well, those type of erosions. They really wanted to differentiate between basic natural erosion to erosion caused by humans, which is typically construction related. So I think that's why they've renamed this. But I believe in the packets I provided a red line copy and a clean copy of the code that we're looking to get approved. And you'll see throughout the word construction site waste or construction site runoff or construction waste management. Those were the phrases used that were required to make this update so that we're in compliance with that stormwater NPDES program and our MS4 permit. And so ultimately, we're here just to provide a public forum to be able to convey this as part of our legislative application. This application's been made into planning, and we also plan to be before the Planning Commission on October 28th. And then if it's approved there, then we would move on to City Commission with a first and second reading that hopefully would end us in early January with a code that is effective at that point, which will meet the various requirements that the state has put on us to get this code updated. So that's why I didn't give you a PowerPoint. I didn't feel it was going to be beneficial to you. But if you have any questions, or if I talk too fast here, feel free to ask me any questions.
All right, what's MS4?
Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So this is all state-driven?
It's all state-driven.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pretty earth-shaking.
Pretty good.
I guess Mother Nature doesn't need a permit now.
Guess not, yeah. So did you all have the chance to read the minutes from our last meeting, August 5th, 2024? Are there any additions or corrections?
I'd move to approve.
I'll second.
Everyone who approves, please raise your hand. Anybody object? Okay, minutes approved. Staff, LIAISON updates?
Yeah, so Trail News, the winter edition, I submitted the first draft. Within the staff report, I attached all of the neighborhood association meeting information. If there are any changes, especially moving into, I know a lot of you are creating your 2025 schedules. A lot of those are the same because you're meeting on the same second Tuesday or third Wednesday. But if you have any changes, especially location changes, I know Hillendale and Tower Vista connected with me and I was able to change theirs. Just make sure to contact me, just review it over and make sure everything's good to go. That way, the public know when your neighborhood association meetings are. There is also e-trail news that went out on October 1st with the October and November neighborhood association meeting schedule. Another thing, as you all know, is I will do social media postings on Facebook and on Nextdoor. Jared, the communications manager, and I are requesting some new photos. So if you have some new photos of your neighborhood association meetings or just park pictures, neighborhood pictures, it's better that we don't, sorry, I shouldn't have touched that. It's better that we don't repeat the same photos that we're using because then you're not drawing as many audience members or members of the public in to engage with those posts. So if you have any photos, or if you have a specific location, I might have some free time to be able to go out and take pictures, but just let me know and connect with me on that. That would be awesome.
And how would you like those pictures just emailed to you?
Yes, email would be great. And then if you have a specific location that you're like, hey, I can't make it out to this location, but it would be great if you took some pictures at Hillendale Park if you had the time, then I can add that to my schedule and be out there and take some pictures for you. Yeah.
The last page, you have the Park Place Neighborhood Association starting time at 7 p.m. It should be 6:30.
6:30, okay. Thank you.
When do you need the pictures?
The sooner the better, but it's really just, it's a request, that way I'm not reusing the same photos. So the sooner that you get them to me, especially for McLoughlin and Gaffney Lane, since you have recurring meetings, especially the general neighborhood association meetings every other month, the sooner you can get them to me, the better, but yeah.
I'll talk to our photographer.
McLoughlin has a photographer. Yeah. I can't guarantee how quickly I'd be able, but I'm always happy. I'm like, I got 20 minutes. I'll step outside and go take some pictures. I'd be more than willing to do that. Pretty much much everything else is the same with the postcard mailers. I will say that I've been coordinating with Eagle Web Press to be able to keep our low rates, making sure that I get neighborhood association postcards, not only within a timely manner, but like, for instance, Park Place Neighborhood Association with their postcard that's going out, if it can go in conjunction with Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, then we can have a better deal in keeping those low rates. So if I reach out to you, I've been trying to reach out 2 weeks in advance, or I think 2 to 3 weeks in advance, being like, hey, just a reminder, I haven't heard if you're sending out your postcard yet. I need the design to me by this date. I'm trying to be better about that. That way you know expectations and I can merge the postcards so that we can keep those low rates. So that's just kind of a side note. You can always look for the update in the email subscriber lists. There's been some uptake since the National Night Out, but the more engagement that you do, I know that Caulfield Neighborhood Association puts their QR code for their email subscriber list within their postcard. If that's something that you would be interested in doing, I have the QR code for every single one of the neighborhood associations' email subscriber lists. You might have received them already. If you need it again, you can always reach out to me and I'm more than happy to send that your way. And everything else is pretty much the same. Make sure you're keeping your eye out for phishing, scam emails. I know that they're,
One question. On Kanema?
Yes.
Misspelling of our chair. Just drop the L. E, L. Drop the L.
I love that we're making corrections because, hold on, let's go back. For Kanema, drop the L.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same as his email, spelling of his last name.
Okay. Awesome.
Great.
And then you have the CIC budget update within the staff report as well. The other thing that I want to take note of, I believe that the CIC will be charged their annual Zoom fee. I don't know exactly how much that is, but that before it was taken out of it was allocated to each individual neighborhood association based off of their population. Since we did the budget system different this time based off of the number of postcards, that will be coming out of the excess funds that you had from last year.
It's only like $150 total, so.
It's not much, but
pennies.
it won't be allocated like it was previously. It'll be just taken out of those excess funds. Yes.
I have something about postcards. I
Yes.
know we can't specify the paper, that's part of why we're getting a good deal.
Yes.
Can we at least go for a lighter color? The one that I got was really
darker.
it's a nice blue, but it really didn't show the black writing on it very well. It was too dark.
That's something I can definitely talk to them about, because they order the paper routinely. The thing that's different about Eagle Web Press versus Buell's is Buell's really did use whatever kind of excess
Well, I'd rather see
card stock that they have.
neon colors that
Yeah.
get attention and they're easy to see black text on.
Okay.
That'd be ideal in my book, so, yeah.
I'll touch base with them and just do something bright.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
While we're talking about postcards,
Yeah.
does the QR, if there's a QR on there, does it have to be a particular size?
It just needs to fit within the parameters of the postcard template.
Right, so if we use quite a bit of that template,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's a good idea. I know we probably can't have it on the front side with the address, can you?
As long as it's not interfering with the area that they place the address, then you should be good to go.
That
Yeah.
answers my
General
question.
guidelines are 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch for print.
Okay.
And QR code.
Thanks.
And if you send me a design and for whatever reason it's not compatible, it doesn't work, they contact me. I think that happened with Kanema when we first switched over to Eagle Web Press and we were in contact, we problem solved. So it's never gonna be the case where you send a postcard design, it goes to print, and it's gonna print wonky.
And my 3/4 inch is minimum, so you can get bigger than that.
Any other questions? Awesome.
Okay, the vending of the CIC membership. I think that's great. Probably just need to take a vote on that. What we did was we eliminated number D, the membership shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries in which they represent. It now reads, a member shall reside, work in, own property, or own a business within the neighborhood association boundaries in which they represent. And we redid this to get Tower Vista, Two Rivers into this. They've been an active neighborhood, but they were unable to send anyone to CIC because our bylaws did not meet that. So can I get a,
So when we say they have to own a business, so they can't be the manager of the business, then they have to own it.
they must work in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
so you
if they
could
wor-
work
if
in
they
it
work-
and be a
okay.
manager,
Okay, perfect.
or work in, own property, own a business, or reside.
Okay.
And there's just not a lot of residential. They actually went door to door for that huge apartment complex behind. And we all know we don't get a lot of renters in those apartments to come to our meetings.
And I just want to emphasize too with the charter, the city code amendment, if you approve this with the ordinance and everything, I will take that to the city commission meeting for its first reading on October 16th.
Okay? Bob?
Would this affect any individual neighborhood association bylaws?
I don't know how everyone else has their bylaws set up. Kenema read this way as well. Did you
But I
read-
mean, if the neighborhood association bylaws are different from this, more restrictive,
Then they,
would this trump the neighborhood bylaws or?
No.
I don't know the answer to that question. Who would be the trump? It seems like we would trump it because we were just a little higher up in the neighborhood. I don't know. I've never had that problem.
This is just for membership to CIC.
CIC.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with the neighborhood association. Neighborhood associations are separate entities where representatives are associations.
If
here in
the
CIC.
neighborhood association had their own bylaws restricting on how they went through their process of selecting a CIC membership, that would be like if they stated within their bylaws that only people who are residing within the neighborhood could be elected, that's, I guess, the only way that I could see that.
How are you
Okay,
feeling?
well, I thought that was probably the answer, but I just wanted to get it out in the open so everybody understands.
Understands it, okay.
And I can make sure on my behalf to, once that change does take place, make sure to email that out to all of the neighborhood association chairs. That way they're aware in case if they want to make any changes to their neighborhood association bylaws.
So after we get this approved, you take it to the commission, how long will it take them to approve this?
So it has to go through a first reading, and that has to go through a second reading.
Second reading,
The first
okay.
reading will be on October 16th, but it doesn't, just because I go before them and ask for approval on the first reading doesn't mean that it's going to happen. I might have to go back and amend some things and go for a first reading a second time.
So should Linda be at the
Yeah.
meeting?
I think so.
Yeah.
I would appreciate you attending a meeting as the CIC chair, yeah.
Thanks.
You're getting paid the big bucks.
I'm missing the big bucks.
Adam, do you anticipate it being a controversial topic?
No, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. And that also doesn't mean that someone can't ask 25 questions about it.
So I
And I won't specify anyone in particular. But I don't expect anything to be too controversial.
Okay.
And I think it's important too, if there are any questions, emphasizing that this change is happening because Two Rivers Neighborhood Association is an active neighborhood association that doesn't have any CIC representatives because of this.
Because of bylaws.
specific- Yeah.
Thank you,
prohibited
Linda.
from coming there, okay.
Well, and truthfully, I think it's great to have business representation at the neighborhood meetings. and
Especially
all
for
that.
Two Rivers, who's,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
on that
actually
stretch.
enjoyed it at our meeting.
Oh, nice.
So.
Okay.
So do you need a single motion to
Yeah.
both amend that chapter and amend the CIC bylaws, or do you individual?
I think it would be easier for me if it's two different. I separated it because they're two separate documents. Yeah.
So I would move to approve amending of chapter 2.30.030 CIC membership.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Anyone oppose? Abstain? Okay, motion passes. And then do I have a motion for Chapter 2.30, Citizen Involvement Committee, Section D? Was that what you just did?
That's what I did.
That's
So
what, yeah.
the next one would be amend.
The bylaws.
Motion to,
To amend the bylaws.
yeah.
Which
a
is the
motion
exact
to-
same thing.
So
Same thing, okay.
I'll make the motion to amend the CIC bylaws in the same way.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Anyone disapprove? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay. On to roundtable. Well, let's go around the table here. Tim, you want to go first?
Sure. Let's see, last month we had a couple different opportunities. We had a candidates forum, which was pretty well attended, and it went very well. We've got quite a few emails and quite a few people watched the video we recorded. So we got a lot of good positive results on that. See, the other thing that went well, we co-presented the 100th anniversary of the Big Pink Church that everyone knows down in our neighborhood. And we had a big event where they had a lot of opportunity to tour the church, to had people speaking about the Povey windows that are there, a lot about the history. And at noon, they opened a 100-year-old time capsule, and that was pretty interesting. So, and as part of that 100-year celebration, it was also the 100-year anniversary of the machine that makes ice cream cones. So the neighborhood gave away ice cream cones for that entire 10 to 2, and we ran out. But thankfully, the library came in and saved us. So that was a really great opportunity, and we had a really fun time. That's about it. Yeah. We will have our web page up 1st of January after the approval of the general meeting on the 5th or 6th of January, whatever it is. So we've put a lot of time and energy into making this new website, and I think it's going to be really beneficial to both the neighborhood and I think the city. Oh, and the other thing, I guess, one other thing, we are also talking about co-opting the McLoughlin neighborhood sale. It's been run in the past by realtors and most recently by the Lions Club, and they have all opted out of it. And so it's been going on 20 plus years. We don't want it to see it drop. So we met with them, and it looks like we will be working to manage that system, or manage that weekend, if you will, every year. So we haven't done it completely yet, but we're working.
We're in the phase of getting more information.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing for the city, and I think it's a wonderful thing for the neighborhood. So we'll continue to work that way. And that's it.
So Park Place has a meeting coming up on October 21st. at 6:30. And on the agenda is candidate forum. Heard from everybody except Betty.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll be there. Slipped right by me, sorry, Steve.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll send out an email saying how it's going to work. And also an update from Clackamas Housing on the redevelopment of the Clackamas Heights area. I've been working with the city on our Metro Enhancement grant for Park Place Park. We have an issue with Poison Oak that has prevented us from doing the things we wanted to do, so it's been changed. So we'll continue to work on that. Also to note, as of the end of this year, I'm moving out of the city. So after 16 years of being on CIC, not going to be here anymore.
Calling it quits.
All I got.
Well, we will have a real problem replacing Steve as our chair. He's been a stalwart person in that position for many, many years. I was a chair for a few years, but didn't want to continue with that. And we've always had trouble getting people to volunteer for that position. So who knows what's going to happen with Park Place, but thank you, Steve, for all your devotion that you've given us.
Dennis?
At our last meeting, neighborhood meeting, we had, Dayna gave her presentation on the McLoughlin Enhancement Project. And that was well received, and we had lots of questions. What else did we do? I gave a little pitch on the status of our cemetery, the historic cemetery that we have in Kanema. Just last weekend, we had a group, we did the summer cleanup. It's looking pretty good. We're all very happy about the tough shed. It enables us to store the equipment that so long was just sort of distributed throughout the neighborhood. And so I think we're on the right footing to proceed and push on to better preservation and restoration. That's been helped and aided by the enhancement grant and all the volunteers that we've had in our neighborhood. Our next meeting is the 21st of November, and it'll be in the library. And I think Denise will be our hall monitor, I believe. That's all I got.
I'm going to jump over to Dan. Dan, do you have anything that you'd like to add for our roundtable?
Not tonight. I'm home kind of bad throat, and I hope my microphone's working. But we've got a lot of things to do over for the traffic and stuff in our area, and there's a lot of things that we need more citizen help. Thank you.
Does Lisa want to say anything? Okay. Dee Dee, are you still on the line?
She is not.
Okay. Josh?
Shelley?
Shelley?
Hello, everyone. This is Shelley Allway from Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association. At our last meeting, we had the principal, Ryan Fuhrer from the Gaffney Lane Elementary School, come and speak to us regarding the bond and the improvements that they're hoping for Gaffney Lane. Nice to kind of get to know the principal that's there for us. We also had a guest speaker, the new director for the Oregon City Public Works Department, Dayna Webb, spoke with us and spoke about what she has going on. And we also had Paul Scarlett from Metro East, manager, Oregon Department of Transportation, speak with us. And our next meeting will be November 19th at 6:30 at the community room. Thank you.
Josh?
Well, we had our meeting last Tuesday and was a little exciting. We had a little exciting. A little. Bob's an instigator, so no, I'm just kidding. No, we had all the candidates for a candidate forum and kind of lost control of the meeting a little bit.
I heard.
And so it was wasn't a lot of fun at the end, but we are definitely working towards addressing that and trying to hold a better meeting in the future. So
You did fine with your meeting.
I'm gonna have to interject here. You're presenting it as though it was our fault. I don't feel like it was. So just, that's all I want to say.
I was getting ready to take the guy down. Betty held me back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Betty restrained you.
So other than that, we won't have another general meeting until January, but we do have a steering committee November 5th.
Betty?
Shelley reported out.
Okay, okay. Hannah?
I get my staff report.
Okay. You're up.
All right, so we have a work session tomorrow that I'm looking forward to. So we've got some interesting topics. The first is that we're going to have a follow-up conversation about establishing a destination management organization, which, as you'll recall, we've talked about in the past as a way for Oregon City to enhance our tourism footprint across the region. And so we're going to hear some updates on that. And then the other thing is something that we talk a lot about, which is parks and how we're going to fund them to the levels that they need. And so for the first time in a while, we have had a study and a restructuring of what our parks SDCs could look like. And now that we have that information, we have the ability, once we decide if we want to go with those SDC increases, we can then look at the remaining amount of deferred maintenance that is not covered by those SDCs and decide if we want to go the route of going for a levy or a bond or something else. And so this has been a topic of conversation in Oregon City for a long time. And I know that many of us are eager to figure out what method and avenue of funding we want to get so that we can have a park system that we can all be proud of. Recently, the legislature's joint committee on transportation, they've been holding their statewide tour, listening tour across the entire state, and they recently came to Happy Valley. And so a few of us were there. Commissioner Mitchell was there, as was I, and we both gave testimony with a big emphasis on the need for this next transportation package, in addition to not including tolls, but with a big emphasis on completing the I-205 bottleneck project. That's a huge regional and, in fact, international project because of the trade that comes down from Canada down through Mexico. That's a big project that needs to be completed, and so that was a big point of emphasis from a lot of us there, which I was glad to hear. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that I appreciated hearing from a few of you at a couple meetings ago on the canines. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm trying to figure out myself why this isn't generally something that other cities do. And so if we're going to be a trailblazer, then so be it. So we'll look into that. And of course, the fun part then becomes in the middle of a budget cycle what there is to cut in response to that. And so obviously that's going to be a conversation that's going to be had if that is something that we move forward with. But finding a way to make sure that these dogs are taken care of is something that has been elevated by this community and is being responded to by your commission. And so we really appreciate that feedback. And that's what I have for tonight.
All right, thank you. Mike Mitchell, was there anything you wanted to add or say? Never gonna say nothing. Got the opportunity here.
I'll keep it real unpolitical.
Yes.
But kind of political.
No.
So if you're interested, the biggest candidate forum will be occurring this Friday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the VFW Hall. That's going from about 1 to 2:30. And then from 3 to 5, an informal meet and greet at Oregon City Brewing and all the candidates will be there. And that is hopefully going to be the largest turnout. It's going to be the biggest event. I hope a lot of people take part. The other thing, one of the former CIC members, our friend Tom Guile, did 30-minute or so interviews with each of us, asking us each the same list of questions. Those were recorded at Willamette Falls Media Center, and those are going to be posted online also as another way to find out more. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Anything else for the order? Okay, well, let's adjourn until November 4th.